Janelle here with a kind of an impromptu video. And yes, I am flowing with the mess just like everybody else. And I have to get my 2 cents in on this whole Paul brothers situation. But really, I actually go and parlay that into a bigger conversation about whose fault is this. So as you guys all know, yesterday morning in Florida, we had a press conference. I'm going to call them Big Paul and Little Paul or Baby Paul, something like that, because when they're in the same room together, I get them confused. I have no idea why. So that's what we're going to do for this whole video here. So we had the press conference between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Big Paul for the fight that's actually going on next month. I believe it's the first week in June. And even I'm still like, oh, this is really happening. Okay, so here we go. So they had their whole press conference, John back and forth, so on and so forth. After that, while you still had the media and the security guards and the fans and everybody's still in this space, this tunnel, because I believe they are at the Miami Dolphins field, so that they were in the tunnel, the walkout tunnel, tight space. So they're still asking people questions and whatnot. And then Baby Paul comes up to Floyd and he's like, you know what, fight me next, blah, blah, blah. Floyd's like, yeah, I'll fight you both in the same night, blah, blah, blah. Baby Paul's like, yeah, you know, get Al Heyman or Al to sign the contract or whatever. Floyd's like, you know, I control my own career, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, Baby Paul snatches his hat, literally says, I got your hat, runs off, and before he can even he really didn't run anywhere. Floyd and all of his many guards slash goons, because Floyd doesn't have security guards, he pretty much has goons. So they snatch him up immediately. Floyd snatches him up immediately, and here's the dispute. Did Floyd actually connect with the punch? And I wasn't going to talk about this until I spent hours looking up different angles of footage trying to see if he connected. And here is what I have deduced. Okay, it does seem as though immediately when Floyd gets to him, there's a guard. Okay, so he has his left hand over Baby Paul's head, and there is a security guard who gets right in between Floyd on his right side and him very quickly. And in between that process, you can look at the posture of Floyd, and luckily he had on that bright ass outfit so we could see him in the crowd, and you could see the posture, the body language. It does seem like he did throw something, or at least the legs. You see the stance switch. You do see a motion with the shoulder. It seems like he maybe did a short uppercut, or that he went for the hat that he still had in his hand at that point. Or he was just trying to grab him. You cannot see if he connects. I looked at so many angles. CBS Miami, the best footage angles are from Twitter. Bunch of good angles from Twitter where it's from Floyd's side. You do see the arm come up and down as if he gave him like a baby uppercut. But you can't see if it connects. His posture would indicate that he threw a little bit of a baby something, nothing major, but you cannot see if it connects. There's that security guard who immediately gets in between him. Either way, somebody hit Baby Paul in the face though. That's very clear. You can see the footage that he takes right after the shirt that he was wearing is the neck's all torn out. He does have, it would be his left eye. He does have a little something underneath the eye, and even in the eye, you could see the redness. So somebody hit him in the face. I'm just not sure if it was Floyd. And I'm pretty sure it was one of his guards, but I don't know if again, the posture seems like he made through a little tap, but I really couldn't see if he connected, but I think there was an attempt. I'll say that. You have to go to the other people who slowed it down and all of that and see what they say. I do know that he definitely got smushed multiple times by all Floyd's guards, and I'm pretty sure one of them hit him in the face. And the surprise on his face, we got smushed on the ground here, stood up, smushed over there. When he got stood up, of course, Big Paul then tried to jump in, and he got hemmed up by the goons a little bit, but nobody really touched him because, you know, that's where the fight's actually happening. And I think it took him a minute to realize, wait, that's my brother getting smushed right now. So he's doing what he's got to do as a brother, getting in there and trying to help his brother. Floyd actually sees him coming in, lets him get in, then he kind of pretends to go after him there. So everything after that initial scuffle where Floyd actually has his hand over him, I pretty much think that's Floyd putting it on. He knows no one's gonna let him get to him. No one's gonna let anybody touch Floyd. So at that point, you know, I do think he is putting it on a bunch. As far as whether the whole thing was faked. In those first initial like 10 seconds, Floyd is not an actor. I think he's legit mad. I think he's legit mad. One, as you know, Floyd actually usually puts a touching clause. Look, can't even talk. Puts a no touching clause in his contracts before the fights. He does not like to be touched before the fight. So that's number one. Number two, did you see his hair? Oh my, someone said, how are you balding but nappy at the same time? Nappy happy. I mean, he's got balding patches all over that head, baby. He probably got real pissed when he snatched the head and saw that dome shining in the lights. He probably really got mad about that. Also, of course, there's the respect thing. And I'm not even fighting you. I'm fighting Big Paul. What are you doing here? And again, I think Baby Paul didn't realize that Floyd has goons, not guards, goons. And afterwards, they're talking to Big Paul. Big Paul's like, what happened? And he's like, yeah, your brother snatched his hat. Big Paul goes, oh no. And they're like, did you know he was going to do that? He's like, I told him not to. I told him not to do that, but he did it anyway. So he definitely looked like he was a little frustrated with Baby Paul there. I guess he has like a chipped tooth as well, Baby Paul. So again, them goons got on his ass. But that's actually, I wanted to parlay this into a bigger conversation. A lot of the comments I'm seeing are saying, boxing this, or fans, this is your fault. It's your fault, the fans, for egging this on, for watching these fights with the Paul brothers, for giving them money, views, such and such, attention, all of that, so on and so forth. And I'm going to push back against that. It's not the fans' fault. It's not the fans' fault. For one, in the big umbrella of sports entertainment, combat sports entertainment, which I also include wrestling, because you know I'm a professional wrestling fan, Triller actually fits in that umbrella. The whole veterans fighting each other, like we saw with Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., that's been talked about for years. And as soon as the big three, the basketball, the big three took off, it went in hyperdrive. Let's do a veterans baseball league. Let's do a veterans soccer league. Let's do a veterans, everything league. So that's already been talked about. That was coming. Also, the crossing over between MMA fighters and boxers trying to fight each other, seeing who's best, that's been talked about for decades. And the bigger MMA gets, taking, kind of the shine off of boxing a little bit, the more we're seeing that crossover. That was going to happen. And I'm actually all for that. Certain fighters like Anderson Silva, who has a special place in my heart, who I don't want to see lose any more fights, I'm not really for that. But like the whole Frank Mir coming over, there's a couple of other fighters are going to come over. That was going to happen. So you can't blame fans for that. That was going to happen. And it should happen as long as everybody's passing the medicals and all of that, and it's not rigged. We don't have paid off doctors. I'm totally fine with that. So there we go. Now, as far as the circus, the spectacle of the Paul brothers, this is the fault of boxing. Boxing. This is your fault. This ain't MMA's fault. It's not the fans' fault. It's your fault. Your fault. You have been slagging for what, 20, 30 years? We haven't had an era in boxing. Not one person here, not just Canelo, not just Floyd, not just Pacquiao, but an era of boxers like the Tyson era where you had all those heavyweights, or even the Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker, Oscar De La Hoya, Sugar Shane Mosley, that whole era of boxing. You haven't had that in 20 years. We've been begging for stars for over 20 years from boxing. You guys got lazy. You've been here for over 100 years. You're a $1 billion plus business for over 100 years, and you got lazy. You guys say you guys are gonna watch whatever fights we put up. Once or twice a year we put up a big fight, even though you have the rumors and the is it rigged and all of that. You guys are gonna watch it anyway, so whatever. We've been telling you for years, you need to change some structures. A boxer having 2 or 3 losses shouldn't end their career. That's nonsense. Styles make fights, just like in MMA. In MMA, as you can see, you got plenty of fighters with 9, 10 losses who are big banking stars, because we understand there's more to that than this. Just because somebody loses 2 or 3 fights in the beginning of their career doesn't mean they're done. Give them a chance to grow. Give them a chance for us to connect to them as a person and watch them grow. That's how we get involved and connected and invested in your sport. This is your fault, boxing. Put the money, you got plenty of money. Put that machine behind multiple fighters, not just one star from every country or from 2 countries. This is your fault. We've been begging, you've known what to do to change your structure, and now you're just complaining about MMA, you're complaining about WWE, you're complaining now about Triller, and complaining about the Paul brothers when this is your fault. The Paul brothers are posing as boxers, not MMA fighters, not even WWE wrestlers. They call themselves boxers. This is your fault. They're your fault. Stop blaming the fans. We're just enjoying the show, baby. We're just trying to be entertained. And whether it's lowbrow, highbrow, fake or non-fake, let me tell you, if this whole incident was faked with Floyd and them, this was one of the best. This is a deep fake, honey, because it was very entertaining. And I'm leaving room to say maybe it wasn't staged. I don't think that Floyd would agree to have him take his hat and expose that balding head. I don't think he would agree to that. So that's just my two thoughts. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to get your thoughts on this. Of course, was it staged? Was it not staged? How you thought about that whole event? Jake Paul was hit by somebody, most likely the goons. And again, the bigger conversation is, whose fault is the Paul brothers? Are we blaming the fans? Or are we blaming boxing? And do you think they should be here? Do you think Triller should be here? Do you think there's room under the umbrella of combat sports entertainment for this? I do. I love it. Give it all to me. I ain't paying for the Paul brothers, but I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. So you guys go ahead and talk about it. Let's go talk about this entire thing. Again, I blame boxing. Who do you blame? Follow me on all platforms. Please subscribe and like if you haven't done already. You have to follow me everywhere. And I will do a last minute prediction video on the UFC Fight Night 26 that is happening tomorrow. I did not forget about that. But again, because I did so much watching of this footage, I had to talk about it. So subscribe, like, talk to me, take care, and goodbye.